You see that in the background, don't you? That's the Fiskars. Barn find, okay? I wasn't looking for a greens mower. I really wasn't, to tell you the truth. But I got on Craigslist and someone had listed this. I forgot where they listed it at, but they listed it as a green mower. They forgot the S. So instead of greens mower, it was listed under green mower, and it wasn't even listed under farming equipment or anything like that. I don't know what category. Anyways, it was listed wrong. And so I looked it up. I found it and I contacted the seller, and it was actually local. I'm in Central Texas, and it was local to me, so I hit the person up, asked if I could come look at it, and I did. And it didn't run when I got there, but it fired right up with starting fluid. It had sat up for a while. The individual bought it to get into real mowing and never used it. And so he bought it used, and I bought it off of him. I paid, I'm not gonna tell you exactly what I paid for it, but it was under $400 for it. So yeah, 2005 John Deere 220 Bravo 220B is a 22-inch cut, 11 blade reel with a groomer on the front of it, guys. This thing is in pretty dang good condition. It's just dirty. I put a new carburetor on it from Amazon, and it fires right up. You see the air filter there. It's the wrong air filter they shipped with the carburetor, but I'll get a new air filter for that. So this video is to show you guys who are getting into real mowing, and gals, that's right. It seems like real mowing is getting popular nowadays, which is great. I'm seeing people actually wanting to take care of their yards. And let me tell you, I'm a yard fanatic. And a lot of people don't understand it, but I love seeing people actually take care of their yard. I love seeing people actually love having home ownership and really just taking pride of their stuff. And so that really gets my heart pumping. I know that seems cheesy, but I love just seeing people in their flower beds, seeing people mow their yard, just keeping up with their home ownership. So this video is to kind of educate you on what to look for when you're buying a real mower, a greens mower. Okay, this video can be applied for not only this John Deere, which you see here, but your California trimmers, your McLeans, your True Cuts, your Toros. Yeah, because let's face it, no one's buying a new machine unless you just have ridiculous amounts of money. But even nowadays, real mowing has gotten so popular that these units are going for a lot more than what they used to 2 years ago. Even a year ago, you used to be able to pick up McLeans, California trimmers all day long for 150, 200, 250 bucks tops, okay? Now I can't even find a McLean's for under 500 bucks unless it's complete junk. So supply and demand, I don't know what it is, but anyways, okay. Number one thing to look for when you're buying a used unit. You want to know what that is? Make sure it runs, okay? I can't tell you how many units I've bought where the description and the ad and the pictures do not match up to the actual machine when you get there in person. I don't know what the deal is with people not taking care of their stuff, but that's typically what happens. And so you can usually get a feel for it as soon as you get there and look at the machine and look at the person and look at their garage and just kind of see what type of person they are. If, number one, the machine's in good condition like they said it was, or the pictures, and number two, does it run? Now, those are big negotiating factors, price-wise, when you're buying a unit. I've bought many units that did not run at all, and 9 times out of 10, it's the carburetor. It's the carburetor. It either needs to be clean, or honestly, these John Deere units come with the Honda GX120 motor. And so it's kind of debranded for the John Deere, but it's GX120 motor. Carburetors for these things are super cheap, $30 on Amazon, okay? And you got a running unit. So make sure the unit runs, guys. Not only that, but just get a thorough walkthrough, okay? You want to make sure that the unit, when you get there, is it cold to the touch, okay? Because that'll tell you right there is if someone's warmed it up to get it running. That way when you do start it, it starts up easier. So always make sure that it's cold to the touch when I get there. If it's warm, that's fine. You know, maybe they did warm it up. But my thing is it's cold. It should start on the first or second pull. Third pull, I'll give you that too. Honda, their motors are built like tanks. So third pull, it should fire right up. Okay, guys? So make sure the unit runs, okay? Now, you make sure the unit runs, okay? Do a visual inspection. Number one thing that I see a lot of is visual inspections on the reel, okay? Now what you want to do is you want to kind of get your hand off in there, make sure the unit's off, okay? Make sure no one's around the unit to start it or anything like that. What you want to do is be careful, but get a feel for the reel, okay? You should be able to stick your hand off in here and make sure that the reel turns. Okay, now while you're doing that, take a look at each one of these blades running across here, okay? Number one thing you want to look for are there any bent blades, okay? You want to run your hand and turn this and inspect every blade. Are there any bent blades? Are there any chunks missing out of the blades on the reel? Number one, that is a huge determining factor in the price of the unit, okay? These reels are replaceable. These reels can be sharpened. More importantly, these reels can be backlapped. You're not necessarily worried about the sharpness, okay? Now be careful because these blades are sharp and they can be sharp. But if they are dull, that's not a problem because these reel mowers, the reels and bed knives, this thing can be backlapped to bring the edge back, okay? So if it's dull, if it's got some surface rust, that's fine. It can be backlapped appropriately, which I'll do another video on how to do that, and you can get this thing cutting, okay? Inspect the reel, make sure there are no nicks, make sure there's nothing missing. More importantly, make sure there's no play in the reel, okay? You kind of want to see if you want to rock it back and forth, side to side. Make sure there's no play, make sure the bearings are good, okay? That's huge. If that thing is dinged, if the reels are bent, then you're talking $300+ just to get another reel, okay? So keep that in mind. That's a showstopper for me. That's a huge showstopper. I won't buy a unit if these things are bent, if there's gouges missing out of it. It has to be priced really dang well for me to even entertain that. Now, I have come across, I think, 2 units before where the reel was bent and actually had some chunks missing out of it, and I walked away from those machines because they weren't priced accordingly, okay? This unit does have a groomer on it. Now, you will not find a groomer on your McLeans, on your True Cuts, on your California trimmers, but you will find them on some greens mowers. Now, what you want to do with your groomer is you also want to make sure that it spins freely, okay? Now, some of these, the Toros, I'm not too familiar with, but I know that this groomer here will spin freely. The Toro may have a little lever to activate it on or off. This one does too. It has a switch on the side, which we'll get into that later on another video to show you how to operate this. But I just want to make sure that this spins freely, okay? Not only that, I want to inspect each little I'm going to call them blades here and make sure there's no real damage. So there's nothing here. There's a few bent ones, just a couple, but nothing major. It was priced accordingly, so I went ahead and bought it. You want to take a look at your front roller. This is your front roller. Now, what you want to do is you want to kind of tip the machine back. These machines will tip back, okay? Just like that. You want to make sure that your front roller spins freely, okay? It has 2 lubrication access points. Okay, fill those with grease, but you want to make sure that that spins freely. It's not locked up, okay? Next big thing here. Once you tip this machine back, you can tip it back even further. You want to get down here, okay? Obviously, you're seeing the rear drum, but you want to take a look at your bed knife. This is this bed knife down here. This is what your reel kind of comes in contact with to make that cut. You want to look for pieces missing, gouges, anything like that. It's not as critical for your bed knife to be in top-notch shape like your reel because your bed knives are easily replaceable for under $50, okay? Now, there's about 11 plus screws down here that hold your bed knife onto the machine. But you want to kind of visually inspect your bed knife. You want to make sure that there are no chunks missing, okay? And then you also kind of just want to get a feel for it. You can kind of gauge the thickness of your bed knife on the side of the machine here, but main thing for me, once I backlap it, it's going to cut paper. But you just want to make sure that there's no gouges missing. You want to make sure all your hardware is there. Make sure all your screws are still there. Okay, so that's good. Now, if you're getting to a place where the reel's in perfect condition and it's sharp because you can feel it when you run your hand across it, your bed knife's in perfect condition and it's sharp as well, you want to do a paper test, okay? Now, what I do is I take index cards and I cut them into little slivers, okay? All right, these little slivers here, what you do is while the machine's back, be careful, but you want to stick your paper 90 degrees off in here, and you want to turn your reel by hand. And what that should do is cut your piece of paper. See that? It's cutting, okay? Paper test. Well, this one's got a little bit of adjustability on the side, but overall, it's cutting paper, okay? Minimal effort to cut the paper. Down here on this side, yeah, I need a little bit of adjustment on here, which I'll get another video on that. But it's cutting paper. Hey, that's good. That means that you're pretty much ready to rock and roll when you get it to your place, okay? So, number one is checking that the engine runs. Number two, condition of the reel. If it has a groomer, your front roller, your bed knife, okay? We've gotten that far. Now what you also want to do is you want to visually inspect the machine. When I say that, you want to look for any major rust, out points. You want to make sure that any other hardware or bolts are not missing. Not only that, but my key thing here is making sure that all of your controls are operational, okay? There's a lot of controls on here, but I'm gonna hit the big ones first, okay? On the John Deere units, you have your reel to bed knife adjustments right here, making sure that these are actually no broken tabs or anything like that. I really want to just hit you up on the big ones here. So what you really want to make sure is that all your actual controls work, okay? So on any unit, you want to make sure that your drive, okay, this John Deere here has what they call a Bale Lever, okay? It's like any other regular lawnmower, you have to hold it basically to make it run or make it go forward, okay? This John Deere unit has a parking brake, okay? You pull up on it, this machine should not move, okay? Make sure that works. You have your throttle control lever over here, and then you have your driving gauge. You want to make sure that if this machine runs, you want to make sure that all your controls are working as well. And I'll get you a demonstration on that here shortly, okay? You just want to visually walk across the machine, make sure everything works. So on these machines here, keep in mind there's a cover that goes on top of here. This is just, the air filter is a little bit too tall, so I got to get the right air filter. But you want to make sure there's no missing hardware. You want to make sure that nothing's locked up. I mean, you've already done a run test, so you want to make sure that all your controls are there, okay? So, without further ado, let me give you a rundown on how to operate and start this thing. GX120 motor, it is cold, so what we're going to do is we're going to turn our gas on. We're going to turn our choke on. We're going to turn our on-off switch on. Now this is all to make sure that all your controls are working, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back it up here. Everything's on. Should start on the first, second pull, right? what I did there is I made sure that my drive control actually propelled the unit forward. I made sure that when I let go of the bale, that the unit still didn't want to drive forward and disengage the drive. Pretty simple, okay? Nothing major, but just kind of a walkthrough on simple operational. I will get into a more thorough operational video later on, but this can apply for any other reel mower, any other greens mower. Make sure your drive controls work. Make sure that your safety features work, because you don't want one of these to get away from you and still just literally walk away from you. I've had 2 units before where the safety features were disengaged for whatever reason, and when you let go of that bale lever, the unit still wanted to walk away from you. And this thing running into a fence, it's going to tear up a fence. This thing running into a tree, it's going to tear up a tree. This thing walking off a curb into the street is going to cause some damage, okay? So, just keep that in mind. Make sure your drive controls work. Now, this next thing only applies for greens mowers, because greens mowers have what they call the drum in the back, okay? And so your California trimmers, your True Cuts, and your McLeans, they don't have a drum in the back. They're actually propelled by, the True Cuts propelled by your side wheels. The California trimmer has a rear rubber roller that drops down when you engage it. And then your McLean also has a rear roller consisted of 4 or 5 wheels that drops down when you engage it. Now, I've had all of those, and I will say this. A lot of people are gonna knock your residential reels, but I'm just gonna tell you this right now. These greens mowers are not very maneuverable around tight obstacles, okay? And so I'm going to go ahead and say I'm out of the norm here, and your McLean and your True Cut, those are really one of my favorite mowers, because of you on the McLean could actually engage the reel without having to drive the unit. This John Deere has to have forward momentum for this reel to be spinning, okay, for it to be cutting. The True Cut actually did not have to have forward momentum as well. You could actually engage the reel separate from the drive. Not only that on the True Cut, but you could also feather the clutch. So you could feather how fast you want it to go. So, anyways, long story short, you want to check the rear drum on these units. Now, when I say check the rear drum, you want to visually inspect this metal drum back here and make sure there are no gouges or anything missing out of it, okay? And simply you can just roll the machine and you can see if there's anything missing out of it. If there's anything missing out of that drum, that's a big no for me, and that's a game changer. Unless you're talking, I mean, it's just a steal of the century. Any chunks missing out of this rear drum, I'm not buying it. Just not doing it. And so with that being said, what you see here are these transport axles, okay? 9 times out of 10, you're gonna see a unit that either A, has these transport axles cut off, okay? These transport axles are only used for one thing. This unit did come with wheels, guys. Yep. 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna get wheels with these units. These wheels are only used to transport the machine. The previous owner I had bought this thing from actually thought you cut with these, and that is not true. I'm not harping on anyone, but I'm letting you know, these are only transportation only. Because what happens is when you're scooting this drum around rough concrete or rocks or something, you could damage it, okay? Smooth driveways, I'm not worried about. Smooth sidewalks, I'm not worried about. You can roll this drum across that, and it sounds horrible, but honestly, it's fine. So, transport axles are a big thing for me. I don't know if I'm going to cut these off or not. That's kind of a negative feature on the John Deere. The Toros, I believe, actually have some of the units. I want to say not all of them. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. But those Toros, some of them actually have removable transport axles. And I think that's a win for Toro, for me, because I don't really want to cut this off, because I may have to load this machine up And these things are heavy. And so these transport axles and these rubber wheels, to me, makes it easier to load up on a trailer with a ramp. This metal drum on a metal ramp on a trailer is just going to spin. So take it however you want. If you never have to transport this thing somewhere and you're looking at a unit that has a transport axles cut off, that's fine, because if this transport axle is cut off, you get closer to your fence, you get closer to rock edges and not worry about this thing catching. If this thing catches a fence panel, it's ripping it off. If it catches a rock bed, it's going to cause some damage. It's going to get away from you. So this thing came with wheels, okay? Big thing. Big, big, big thing. Now, I'm going to say this, and this is going to kind of conclude my video for now. This unit did not come with the grass catcher, okay? I have sourced one, and I have found one previously before I committed to buying this, so it's kind of a price determining factor for me. Grass catchers are a must. I know that not a lot of people catch the clippings. I do in the backyard because of the kids playing, but in the front yard I don't catch the clippings. Backyard, and when you're scalping, you're going to want a grass catcher. And so grass catchers for any of these units, I don't care which one, McLean, True Cut, California Trimmer, Toros, they're expensive and they're hard to come by. So keep that in mind. The must-haves for me is it must have a grass catcher, or either source one before you buy it or price it accordingly and let the buyer know that, hey, it's missing a grass catcher. So anyways, big things to look for. It's just those key things are what to look for. Everything else I'll explain in another video. I'll get into details on looking at actual belts, chains, pulling covers off, inspecting all that. But if you can get to a place and the unit drives and the unit cuts, if you can get that person to show you, because I've sold a lot of these, and I will personally walk someone through on how to use a unit and how to cut with it. If someone is willing to show you that before you purchase it, then you know you're kind of making a good purchase. Okay, guys? Anyways, happy hunting. I hope this video helps a little bit, and I'll get more into it later. See you guys.